I've had people email me photographs of their new tattoo, which is like using, you know, that same butterfly. Something that's great about this art, that it's part of a community, and the community uses it and reproduces it and stretches it in the way they see and they want, and it ends up being on people's bodies and in people's communities, on the streets, and, you know, on the blogs and all over. I see the patterns in them, and I see how it mimics life. I designed them in black and white. That way you can screen print it, or you can have it machine printed. You can add your own color. You can use it as an organizing tool. This is some of the power of the art, is bringing people together, is showing them how they can play the game, how they can produce the art to put on the street, to start conversations, to change minds, to build our strength. Like, when people start seeing posters on the street, they know something's happening, you know? The campaign starts building a sort of street presence. We can produce lots of posters ourselves. So that's where you start when you're designing. You know, you think about it in different scales. When people first saw the image, if they could just see a large butterfly, if it just had one word, migrant, I think folks would see that and think, right, a migrant butterfly. The butterfly image that I created has sort of 4 fists, one in each of the 4 directions, sort of with this idea that every human has a right to migrate in any of the 4 directions. There's footsteps around the edges of the butterfly that symbolize the idea that migrants may come up to the United States, but that there's this desire to come back down. There's a desire to migrate, to continue the path that's been going on for so many years, in so many generations. You know, this sort of trying to dispel the idea among Americans that people necessarily want to come to this country and want to stay in this country, when in fact that's not what's been occurring. It's this migration pattern of going south and coming north. There's a symbol of a small family on each of the tips of the wings. So there's levels of understanding as you approach the piece, but then it also has the pre-Columbian iconography of different butterflies that were used by different, you know, artists, different people through different times. I was born in Comodoro Rivadavia, that's a city in Patagonia. I was born a couple of days after the military coup in Argentina, and so the military was repressing the people through a violent campaign of disappearing what ended up being around 30,000 people. The targets were, you know, leftist activists, but also ended up being artists and journalists and a larger group of people. My dad was basically alerted that, you know, he was under danger. My mom was as well. I ended up in Houston because that's the same type of city, is a sort of an energy capital. Migration is what's been happening for all these years, is a pattern of coming and going, and coming maybe for the growing season and returning home, and being part of these communities and meeting so many people. I've seen the pain that they carry from all these, from not being able to go home, not being able to see loved ones when they're passing. And so the idea of the poster is also to raise the awareness around the fact that people want to return home, and it is a continuation of a pattern that's gone on for years, generation after generation. But butterflies have this pattern, this migration, and humans have had this pattern of migration, this cycle that, you know, now is being interrupted and is causing a lot of pain and damage to children and to families. And so that's what we're fighting for, is this human right to migrate, this right for migrants to have human rights.